At one time, I was homeless. Instead of going home every night, there was no home to go to.
Life at home was very difficult. I grew up being abused.
I lost my belt. I lost respect. I embarrassed my family.
My vision was pretty much non-existent. I was able to just about scrape by the medicals.
When I come out, I have supreme confidence, but I'm scared to death. I'm afraid of everything.
I didn't care about living, I just wanted to die. I got up and I felt the weight of the world was lifted off my shoulders. I knew I was going to make a comeback.
Fighting, this was designed for me. This is what makes us who we are.
I'm the best!
Who the fuck is that?
I'm so far ahead of this game. My dream, my vision for myself is to be the greatest martial artist to ever live.
I have always been a fighter. There's nothing I do better in this life than fighting. There ain't never been a man that could better me. I was born to do this.
Nobody can get close. I'm the best fighter in the world.
I'm the most brutal and vicious and most ruthless champion there's ever been.
Welcome back to the Pain Game podcast with my brother-in-arms, Wade. How you doing, brother? All right.
What's up, man? How are you, man?
I'm good. Merry Christmas, by the way.
Yeah, you see it? I'm ready,
I'm feeling
man.
the vibes.
I'm ready. I told myself this year, I'm not letting anyone get their tree up before I do. So I was ready December 1. I was not playing around, bro. So we're ready.
I love it. I mean, me and Wade talk all the time, so we don't really need to go through the whole like this, that, and the other because we're always talking. This past weekend, UFC, the stock of Paddy Pimblett took a battering in the last week, like
plummeted.
And you know, I'm very friendly with this guy. I wouldn't say I'm his best friend or anything, but I had him on my show pre-UFC, and he went up against Ariel Helwani.
Dangerous game to play.
Yeah, to be fair, it went worse for him against Ariel Helwani than it did for him in the octagon against that Jared. So let's take on the Ariel Helwani situation first, because I have something in common with Ariel Helwani. I had Paddy on my show pre-UFC, and then when he got into the UFC, I was also told by his manager, it's going to cost you if you want him back on. So that was quite interesting. And I did make a few notes because I don't want to fuck this up. I remember watching Ariel, I think like 2008. Like, that's how far back Ariel's been doing this. So I got to give it up to him. I do have respect for him. He took Paddy apart in very easy fashion because Paddy is not as skilled with his words as what Ariel is. Ariel has, it's like Paddy and Ariel rolling jiu-jitsu, you know, like it wouldn't be fair. And it's the same with Ariel. And, but I think the broad point that Paddy made, that Ariel makes money off of fighters, has some weight to it. And I think that the way Ariel sort of took it as a very literal thing of, well, I don't get paid for YouTube views. It's like, well, the company who pays your contract, they literally budget based on what views you're going to bring to them. And the reason Ariel's built his star up over a decade or more even is through having the star power rub off on him from fighters and from all of those appearances. And it all factors in when you're budgeting to have Ariel Helwani sign a contract with you. So to say he doesn't make any money off of fighters, you know, it's like, okay, you don't have your own YouTube channel, but the YouTube channel you work for literally does make money off of sponsors and views, and they get that from your interviews. So I felt like he was slightly disingenuous in the way he explained it. He made it out like he was some sort of 1980s newspaper journalist, and that's not what he is. He is slightly an entertainer, and he is on YouTube, and you know. So I just wanted to start off by saying
I was going to say, like what Ariel does well is, and it was what's made him into, I guess, what you would call a star as an MMA journalist is he's been able to blend a combination of breaking news stories, real hard-hitting journalism, things that the UFC, I mean, you've seen why they don't like him. He blew up the Brock Lesnar story. And again, that was one that like, he gets a bad rap for that. He was doing exactly what he was supposed to do there. Yeah. And the UFC supposedly had this hit, like, don't say it, don't. He didn't know. He went and did his job. So
a journalist is supposed to challenge authority, and Ariel's done that well.
Many times. And he has that option even now. He can still do that, and he still does that. He still is the major news breaking source in MMA.
However, sorry to interrupt you, Wade. What I will say is he hasn't quite challenged let's say, Conor McGregor in the same way. When he's been sat in front of Conor McGregor, who has a whole host of things you could rip him to shreds on, Ariel has been very careful in those interviews, and sometimes it's not been great interviews because he's been so careful. And the reason he's been so careful is because he doesn't want to fuck up the money. Now, he plays a very clever game in the way he's gone at Dana as our sort of Robin Hood, but it ain't always that way, you know? And I think that there's been opportunities missed by Ariel where he's been sat in front of fighters who he could have taken apart, you know, and I don't want to criticize him because I have so much respect for him, but I think just the way he laid it out was for maximum damage against Paddy. Because he was so upset by what was said. And I was
going to say,
and I get that he's upset because Paddy spoke about him in a really bad way, and I don't think that was right. But what I want to do is sort of bring a little bit more of a level-headed and realistic approach to this because we're not involved, so it's easier. Yeah,
it was easy for Ariel to slam dunk on Paddy.
Absolutely,
it was very easy. Like Paddy made it easier by just saying the things he said, but. You are right. Ariel did approach this as an emotional guy to a degree, right? And this is something I didn't bring up in my video, and I probably should have. You look at Ariel as a guy that is an unbiased journalist, but he's still a human being, right? He is still a guy with feelings and a guy that maybe sometimes wears those on his sleeve a little.
Which
and that's what happened here. Yeah. No, you should be. Like you said, he's a content creator as well, right? He's still going to offer opinions. Now, where that line is met to where he is overstepping it and saying things that are maybe not in school, like you shouldn't be saying. Some of the things that Paddy kind of opened the door for, though. Yeah, so it's like you kind of just you have to put out the truth. But Ariel could have approached this, and to be fair, I think did for a long time as a way of being like, listen, I'm not going to say this. I have all this info. We're not going to bring it out. But the fighter pay issue, like him coming on the show, all that, Ariel said it himself. I just saw something I do. You know, other people can do that. But the way Ariel read into it, with the manager saying, oh, let's do something, you're going to have to pay, get your budget. And Ariel being so offended is that emotional side of it, right?
Yeah, that's the point.
Ridiculously,
I think a lot of people are sort of missing that. Because Paddy was so reckless, it's easy to blame Paddy for this. But I just wanted to dissect it a bit deeper because just because Ariel does make money off of fighters, and I have made many pounds off of fighters, I am completely admitting that I do this as also, but they benefit from it too, because what an Ariel Helwani is there to do is help a fighter tell his story better than he can. And that's why he deserves compensated for this. So at no point am I saying that Ariel is doing fighters over. And I think that for Paddy to sit there in front of Dana White and accuse him of that was out of order. And I think what Ariel has created...
And saying it is hilarious.
Yeah, of all people. To say it to the guy who's literally the American Tory. But I think what Ariel has created, and what other podcasters have created or interviewers, is like, especially Ariel, is an ecosystem where Ariel interviews the Conor McGregors, the big boys, but he also interviews the small fighters, and that trickle down is benefiting the whole community of MMA. So to say he's purely there to suck and take from it and not give anything back, I think is really unfair on Ariel. So just to break down some of the other things that were said by these guys, Paddy saying Ariel wanted me to do a free interview instead of a paid interview that my manager had lined up. I think that's a very convenient, way to put it, to try and deflect from the asking for money for the interview.
Yep. That's exactly what it is. Ariel came out and said, he's like, I didn't say you couldn't go do another interview. Yeah. Like, I don't control what you do.
Just fit me in as well for free if you can. Like,
that's not going to be what we do here.
The manager of Paddy, Graham, incredibly short-sighted. Because what they've tried to do now is they've gone, no, we weren't asking Ariel for money. We were just asking if he could ask BT for money. And I'm like, I asked for an interview from you at the same time. I'm not employed by BT, and you asked me for money as well. So that's bullshit. That is flat out bullshit from Paddy's manager. And this guy, I know people who know of him, and look, he's clearly done certain things of worth in his career, but I get that he's there to make money for Paddy, but when you're also getting a percentage of that money, you may make decisions that aren't worth hurting your fighter's reputation for an extra few quid if you've got that small time mentality. And this was small time from me.
This turned into a way bigger thing than it should have been. And what happens now is, and again, you're right, Graham, deciding to, I guess, use this as the platform he wanted to go at Ariel, right? You don't go at the big guy. Like, you can, even going at you, like, you're going to start to build a reputation for people that don't want to work with you. And Paddy is now, unfortunately, kind of receiving that same hate that really he is just riding for his manager, right? Like, Paddy is hearing a lot of things in his ear, and his manager obviously is the guy that knows more about this stuff. And even Ariel even said it when he reached out. He goes, "Hey, I let Graham do a lot of that stuff now. Like, I don't know how all this works. I just let him do it, and then whatever he says, I do." So it's obviously Paddy listening to somebody. Graham probably is the guy, and it's like,
and that's why I feel like Paddy got a little too much heat this week. I feel like really it's the guy behind Paddy who should be taking more of the flack. And instead,
think about it. How many fighters know how to navigate this space? How many guys know where I should be, how I should be doing it? When, like, not a lot. Connor is probably the only one.
No, should they be? Somebody should be doing that for them, but they should just be good at it.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Graham's probably very good at his job, but again, you pick your battles here. You don't go and, try to big league Ariel Helwani. And then when it all hits the fan, Paddy's the one that's trying to ride for his manager. His manager just threw his hands up. He didn't say anything. And then
did you see that? Did you see that Instagram video?
Yeah.
Bro,
yeah.
Managers are usually very good at speaking. This was a fucking shambles of a video, right? So, but what I will say, the only thing I could say against Ariel outside of the incorrect point he made about not making money off of fighters was when he got emotional in the DMs and took issue with it being charged. I thought, if you just leave this here and you go, okay, fair enough, you want to charge, I'm not going to pay, fair enough, I'll see you later. If he just left it at that and didn't start getting a little bit aggressive in those DMs and then goes on the Pat McAfee show and blatantly indirects Paddy, I feel like Ariel has not conceded that he could have handled that bit better yet.
Yeah, that's fair.
That, to me, when you know you've got a young lad from Liverpool who doesn't play politics, who is just going to speak his mind, you're saying, well, I never said your name. It's like, bro, he knows you're talking about him, though.
Exactly.
Come on now. And I do think Ariel, as the wiser guy in this situation, who's an older journalist who's been around, just could have just not. If Ariel doesn't say anything there in that moment, none of this happens, by the way. That's it, dead. So I do think Ariel has sort of, and I get it. When someone comes after you, you're not going to concede anything. But for us, I think we can say he could have just not, exploded.
He could have handled that better. Going on Pat McAfee's show and doing that. Granted, 99% of people would have had no idea what he was talking about. But the people that mattered and the reason this thing blew up did. Because as soon as that happened, Graham gets on Instagram, writes that long message about how fighters could get paid. And that's where people made the connection. Now, what Ariel, and this is not me defending Ariel, it's just me watching him over the last couple of years. Ariel, for years, we've watched him. He was a background, quiet guy, never talked about like the beef between him and other people. And then when that Dana thing happened, it switched very quickly, right? Like you saw him get emotional, the whole thing. But now he is Helwani. He's coming for skulls, man. He buried Brendan Schaub, buried him, like 10-7 him over something that, again, didn't really need to be said between either of them. But Ariel was really adamant about taking like umbrage with what he said and making sure everyone knew it. It seems like that's the way Ariel's going to handle things. And it is fairly emotional in some cases. And I think this was one of those cases where I don't know where he got offended so much by. Was the fact that he was asked to pay or? Yeah,
I've got all respect for Ariel defending himself. But when you're all about the truth, when you're all about the truth and Ariel is generally that way inclined, you have to reflect that on yourself and your own behavior. And I just think he could have taken a little more accountability than he did. And and that's all I'm saying. Like, at the end of the day, the things Paddy said were completely out of order. What Dana said were out of order. And it's easy for me to say Ariel could have been a little less emotional, but it's not me they're talking about. And I understand he was pissed.
Yeah. And you are right, though. If it's between Ariel and, a younger fighter that really probably doesn't know how to navigate this space, in that moment, Ariel could have and probably should have said, you know what, this is silly. I don't need to go public and say some stuff like this. And then
it
never, like you said, it never would have happened. They would have still had beef between them, whatever, but it never would have been this. They could have easily walked this.
Yeah, like when I got the message from my guy saying, "Oh, they've asked for money," I just went, we'll leave it then.
Exactly.
And that was it. Dead. Nothing came of it. You know what I mean? Because I get it. Like, Paddy's a young guy from Liverpool, and they don't know how long this is going to last. So they might be trying to get as much cash in while they can before this shit blows or whatever.
And fair play to him.
I understand that. And as a man, how am I going to have a problem with another guy for trying to make as much money as he can in that event? So I see both sides. Yeah. And I think... but I get Ariel's broader point about, as a business, a journalist, if they had to pay for every single fucking interview they did, that would kill the business. So on a broader level, what Ariel, although he's taken it very personally, I think what he's fighting for is the right thing, which is we shouldn't have to pay for interviews. Just don't do the interview if you don't want to do the interview. You know what I mean?
Right. No, Ariel's correct by saying what he said. And not only the payment, killing the business in a financial stake, but also in an integrity stake where Ariel, yes, he has interviews with guys like Connor where you want to see him push the envelope a little more, but it eliminates it completely when you're buying interviews, because at that point, you're not buying just the interview. You're buying the questions you ask, you're buying the responses you get, you're buying the time of that individual. So it becomes a pattern of, oh, okay, I know what's going on here. Here comes the softball question. I'm very comfortable with this guy. So that's exactly what happened.
He literally got paid to do gigs with Conor McGregor on stage, remember, where he did that tour? So, like, Ariel's taken money to be the interviewer before, by the way. I doubt he did that for free. Maybe he did, fair enough. Do you want to know which two people asked me to pay for them other than Paddy?
Let me try to guess. The Furies.
No, actually, I said no, so they've never appeared.
Okay.
And they both asked for the same amount of money, I believe.
Okay.
One was Floyd Money Mayweather. You gotta love it. You gotta love it.
Okay.
One was Ric Flair.
No way.
And you're in the wrestling game, right? You love wrestling.
Not my boy.
We're going to talk about wrestling at the end of this, actually, because I know you're getting into your wrestling content.
Yes.
How much do you think they quoted me? I'll give you one guess.
Floyd at the same number.
Same number.
50 G's.
It was 10.
Okay. I was playing it up for Floyd. 10 G's, bro.
Yeah, 10 G's for Floyd Mayweather.
But no, I kind of get it for Ric Flair.
Yeah.
Like, I love Rick. Nate's is crazy, but come on, son.
Yeah, I was like, I'd love to interview Ric Flair, don't get me wrong, but 100%. I haven't got that kind of money, motherfucker.
No, and 10 G's just
and I ain't going to recoup that investment either. Not on Floyd even.
Shot.
So yeah, bro. I mean, let's talk about Paddy's in cage performance.
Yeah.
Who did you give the fight to?
Jared Gordon easily.
Oh wow.
It could have been 30-27 Jared Gordon, to be honest with you. I had it 29-28. I thought, God, I have to go back and watch. I think it was Paddy winning the second. Jared Gordon easily, in my opinion, winning the first. And the third round, I don't see how you give to Paddy. I know that MMA judging has become so subjective, and I don't want to turn this into a full breakdown of MMA judging, but a guy gets held on the cage for damn near 5 minutes. And granted, there's not a lot of damage being put on Paddy in those moments, and damage is something that apparently is very much now the forefront of judging in MMA. Again, it's a subjective word. What is damage? Like, what's a significant strike, medium, hard strike, light strike? What is the damage, right? Do you see a guy get cut and they're like, he wins the round because this guy got a cut on his head? Like, what are you talking about? So
yeah,
I had Gordon winning the first round. Again, Paddy has this ability that we all know that he has on his grappling game. He has apparently a granite chin, but he has flaws. He has big flaws in his striking, big flaws in his striking defense. And that came out again. The left hook, whenever Jared Gordon wanted to land it, he did.
Mate, the amount of times we've seen that blown wig pop back, fly,
boom, yeah.
And if there's one thing Vidal taught me when I was in the ring with him for those times, he said, if you keep making the same mistake, I'm going to fucking hurt you, and so will a proper fighter. And that was the thing, that when Paddy kept making that same mistake of no head movement, hands down, chin in the air, I thought any top 15 fighter or anyone with some real power in their hands, they're going to really put Paddy in some serious trouble, because this guy was not ranked.
No.
And this
was not a high-level guy.
But this is the thing for me. I'm questioning Paddy's instincts as a stand-up fighter. Is when you keep getting hit with the same shot and you keep allowing that to happen over in multiple rounds, and you're not registering, I need to change what I'm doing. It tells me that you're not thinking enough. You're also not prepared enough, and you haven't learned enough when you're getting in there. And when he's been taught, like, people like Teddy Atlas have literally told him, like, you need to fucking sort that out now. And his attitude is that, suck me asshole. Like that.
That's what I was gonna say.
It's that attitude. I'm like, when the day comes when someone checks him properly, that Scousers don't get knocked out clip will be played on repeat.
100%.
Because you just can't fight like that on any level.
No, and you just said it's the attitude of Paddy. Like the reason we love him is also the reason we're starting to see he's going to have a cap here. There's going to be a limit on what Paddy can be. It's going to be because of himself, right? He is unapologetically just this way. Like when they asked him about chin up, hands down, he goes, "This is how I fight." What do you mean? Like he just doesn't care. Like he just does not care. It's the way he's going to fight. It seems like there's no caution to the wind at all as far as getting hit. But again, he hasn't been hit and cracked and hurt like a guy like Ilia Topuria could do to him.
Oh God, the fact that they had that beef in the press conference, and then Topuria gets in there, puts on a clinic, looks like a savage. You're like, fuck getting in there with him, Paddy. Stay away from this guy.
No, and if the UFC is smart, they saw, I mean, the clip has been run now for I don't know how many times on Twitter of Dana White looking at the Barstool guys, and there's some trepidation in that face. He didn't know what that decision was going to be, which is, again, shocking that it was even a close decision to me.
You know, when you talk about the Barstool moment, that whole Barstool thing when he comes out, like, I mean, those guys, I don't know what they're like in America, how big they are. I know their football content is dog shit. Like, they have the worst football shit like possible. They have not a clue, mate. Like, it's embarrassing what they've done.
They're massive over here, but they are have no idea when it comes to the football side and really, quite frankly, the fight side. Yeah,
okay. So this is the thing. This could have been how you play this, like Sugar Sean, when he got his close decision, he can play it well, or you can be like, when he's going to Dana, fight of the night, you're like, are you shitting me, mate? What planet are you on? That was a very average fight. Like,
bro, did you hear him talking to Joe Rogan? The first thing he does with his big moment after his win, his controversial win, he goes, "Joe, did you pay for this interview? We got to pay for." It's a good line, but then he goes,
"But it's a good line if that's not true." The problem is, it is true. You were trying to charge for interviews.
Joe no-sold him. He was like, "Yeah, all right, whatever, dude." No,
Joe didn't give a fuck, did he? Nah, he doesn't care
one bit. But then he goes, "Sorry, Paddy, this was a close fight. What are your thoughts?" And Paddy interrupts him. He's like, "No, it wasn't close. I won the first two easy, coasted to the third." I was like, what you're saying is awful. One, that you thought you won easily, and two, that you said you just coasted in the third.
Yeah, I was watching Luke Thomas, and he said something along the lines of, people have compared this guy to Conor McGregor, which I think is such an unfair comparison, to be fair to Paddy. Like, this guy is the biggest star in the history of the sport and had a meteoric rise like we'd never seen before. But he was like, his fourth UFC fight was Dustin Poirier, ranked number 5, dusted him in the first round. Like, this guy, Gordon, is not even ranked, and you're struggling in a decision with him. Like, reality check. I think that's what we expected. It was a bit of a moment of reality of, okay, it was a tough fight. I need to work on my stand, but it was just complete and utter easy win. I just coasted the third round.
He said, "I just coasted the third because I dominated the first two." It's unbelievable. Again, it's Paddy's mindset and his attitude. He genuinely is, in his mind, bigger, more talented, bigger superstar than he really is right now. And that's not a knock on Jared Gordon, by the way. The guy's 19-6. Like, he's a legitimate, good, talented fighter, but he's just not the top.
But there's so many above him that are better than him. That's where you go, okay. And that was my takeaway was, fuck the decision. This is where your level is right now. You're not ready for those top guys. And you've had a big speed bump here, and it's time to learn from him, because Paddy has got elite jiu-jitsu, but everything else needs work, basically.
Well, that was the thing too, that we didn't even get to see it really in this fight. He
strange.
Like grappling for grappling, Jared Gordon, a decent wrestler, was like putting Paddy where he wanted him on that cage, and he was like, "You're not getting off it unless you do something here." And again, this is more of an MMA judging thing with me. It's like, if we're gonna call this third round a bad strategy, which is hilarious from Dana to say in the post-fight presser, he's like, "That was a terrible strategy in the third." You know what would make that an easy strategy, Big Dana? If we had open scoring in MMA and you could see where you were going into the third.
Yeah. What about Darren Till real quick? Because obviously another defeat. We've got, I watched Daniel Cormier and I watched Michael Bisping. Obviously Bisping, good friend. Bisping saying there's plenty Darren can do. You know, it was a tough opponent, and he's speaking quite positively. Daniel Cormier said, I can't see him lasting much longer. Daniel Cormier was like retirement. That's what he's talking about.
I mean, listen, it's more Daniel Cormier being right here than Bisping, in my opinion. And not that they're both completely right. Like, Bisping's right when he says Darren's still got something in the tank, but it's just like, man, when you watch Darren Till fight over the last 5 years, have we seen a different Darren Till in any fight? Have we seen a different guy?
Mate, you make a great point, because one of the quotes I wrote down from Bisping was, not enough output, mental block. And I thought, mate, that's Darren Till. He hasn't looked dominant in a single fight he's had since Donald Cerrone. The two wins he's had were close as fuck, and the rest weren't. Obviously, he lost them. And in fact, out of the last, 4 fights, I think he's been finished 3 times or something like that. So it's just, as much as we all like Darren, I think all 5 fans have a like for Darren. It's
absolutely,
the reality needs to be there, and there needs to be some harsh reality of how the fuck are you training with Khamzat Chimaev, and your wrestling defense is like...
It was bad, man. It was like Duplessis had one way to win that fight, really, and it was to grab a hold of Darren and smash him on the ground. And that's what he did for that first entire round. Fair play to Darren. He's a tough dude.
Oh, he took it well, like, yeah.
But it's like the one way you can lose this fight is the one thing that you needed to work on, and that's why you're with Khamzat Chimaev, and it's why you're with those guys, working your grappling, and still there's a misconnect there. And then when Darren does get to his feet, the spot where he is supposed to run this guy over, be an absolute freight train, it's just like he cannot push it into that third gear. He just cannot let whatever he has in the tank go. And I'm not exactly sure why.
That round 2, when Duplessis was gassed as fuck, you're just like, bro, kill him. Go after him. He is gassed. And Darren is in this, like, I think you quote tweeted Luke Thomas's point about, he just looks like he's in sparring mode constantly. Yeah. There's not this like, I need to kill this motherfucker. There's every time I watch Darren fight, and all of even the Gastelum win, Wonderboy win, it's always like I don't know if he's hesitant. He's always thinking about what's coming back and not thinking about killing the other guy.
Something that you see with Darren too, even in the wins. And by the way, the Kelvin Gastelum win is a huge win on his resume. So is the Wonderboy win. But even in those fights, you see a guy that wants to be technically better. It looks like when he fights, he wants to be technically better than you. So he is very much, let me pick my shot. Let me line this thing up. Let me hit you with one to open up everything else. And sometimes that's just, if you're Darren Till, you're a big, strong guy, give us some variety. Give us some volume, right? Work your way to that big shot. Because if it's not the back elbow and it's not the lead hand, pull down straight left hand, I got to be honest, I don't know what else Darren has. Well,
it wasn't varied enough. Nowhere near varied enough. Yeah.
He hasn't shown us that. Ever. It bothers me because I know he's a talented guy, and he says all the right things, and mentality is different than just saying it. You have to be able to go and believe the things that you're saying, and I just don't know if he does anymore.
I thought that this was going to be a real reality check moment for him, and then he posts this thing on his Instagram about like all these pictures of his previous fights saying, I'm just getting started, and I'm just like, you need a serious chat with someone who's going to keep it fucking real with you right now. And first of all, I'd probably go to someone like a Jason Perillo. Bisping's got that got that connect there. He needs a head coach who knows how to make champions, because all of this, 1 minute he's in Thailand, 1 minute he's with the lads at Cowbon, 1 minute he's with Kamzat. Like, he's all over the shop, and he's all over the shop in his head. He needs one coach, one message, and one team, and that's it. You know what I mean? And Michael Bisping might be the one to put him in touch with him, hopefully.
And now, him at 85, he looks small. So it's like, you got to make that decision too. And it's going to be, like you said, it needs to be a real reality check. He's 31 years old. Time is not on his side here. This is a young man's sport, especially at both those divisions. We have guys springing up left and right. And God forbid he gets in there with a Bo Nickel or somebody that they toss him in with.
He doesn't fight like he's in his prime, though. You know, I think he said he's 29, coming on 30 this Christmas or something like that.
Yeah.
He doesn't have that spring and that, like, I don't know if it's all of the way he's treated his body, the injuries or what, but he's not looking like the guy in his prime.
When he came on the scene in welterweight, he was explosive, and he was, just murking guys. And again, competition is going to breed exactly what your level is. And maybe this whole time we just thought Darren was a higher level than he genuinely is. Maybe
I think that's the case, if I'm being honest. I think we have to believe the data. And you know what I mean? Like, you're getting finished by like 3 guys in your last 4 defeats, for example, and that's a fighter in decline usually. So, or the competition is getting better, as you said. Let's talk YouTube boxing then, because you've been coming out with some really interesting stuff lately about the business of YouTube boxing, and I wanted to pick your brain on where this is going right now, because you put out a story recently about Gib and his fee demands to fight on a DAZN card, which blew my fucking mind. Right? There was I think, if I'm right in thinking, correct me if I'm wrong, he rejected $250,000 to fight on a DAZN card. And it's a shame because I've really been wanting to see how he would do against some of the guys that have sprung into life through Misfits. I'm talking Slim, Salt Pappy. We would love to see those fights. Is that where it's at right now? I mean...
Yeah. It's a crazy number, isn't it? It's madness.
Just for example, just so people understand, though, who maybe are, I don't know, aren't as clued up, UFC fighters.
No.
Like, I think Tyron Woodley, his last paycheck in the UFC, for example, when he was a former champion, right? Not top level guy, was $250,000, I think, or something in that region. So if Gib is rejecting that shows the kind of cash this guy has been making. And good for him. Love the guy.
Exactly.
But wow.
Yeah. That's the thing is we're getting to this point, and it saddens me because we're getting to it, but it's almost like we're evolving into the pro scene where we're not going to get some of the fights we want because of silly little stuff like this. But it's also, twofold, because if you're Gib, why would you fight for whatever the number is less? Because we don't know how much less. Because he said it was his lowest offer in the last 3 years. We don't know how much less that offer is. So
I bet you the Jake Paul fight paid good money.
I know, right? Yeah. So if you're Gib, why would you, right? And here's another thing that we're still dealing with in the YouTube boxing scene. While Misfits is becoming the biggest player in town, they're still not the only one. So if some guy or some company has enough money to toss around and they want to get their son's favorite influencer on a card or something, it's a possibility that he can still go out and make that money, which is why he's not signing with Misfits right now. That makes, the most sense to me.
Originally, we were getting all of these fights that we wanted, and now we're starting to see people apparently avoiding your Salt Pappy, avoiding Slim. KSI posted recently, like, just getting these guys fights is becoming difficult.
It's a combination of things. It's, obviously the danger involved with fighting a guy like Salt Pappy, which his fight with Bruckner, we love that. But it's also, the risk reward factor for a lot of guys. They're starting to smarten themselves up to the business. And when they see Gib now being offered that kind of money, this is the scary part. You got guys that aren't as talented as Gib that maybe have the same social media following, see that number and go, wait, why am I fighting for whatever the number is less than that? Why am I not fighting for $250? You know what I mean?
Because you're getting paid not based on your boxing ability. You're getting paid on how much money you draw. Simple as that.
Exactly. And here's the sad thing, and I'm not here to look at anyone's pockets and pocket watch anything like that, but let's be honest with ourselves. How many people are drawing anywhere close to an amount that would allow them to make $250,000?
Exactly.
There's maybe 3, 4.
Yeah.
So if we're really going to look at this as a business and something that has to go forward, I'm not saying fighters don't go get your money, because go get your money 100%. Whatever you can get, whatever you can make, do it. I'm all about it. But we also have to be realistic if we're looking at this as a long-term play for Misfits, for MVP, for whatever companies pop up. They have to run this as a business. And to my knowledge, Misfits has been profitable over the three that they've had, and now with the fourth one, we'll see. But they've come out on top in these. So they're doing something right. It's just fighters are going to have to really think about, what do I want out of this? Am I trying to become, is this my new career path, or am I trying to make a quick buck and do my thing and then hop off? Because if that's the case, fair play, go get your money. But if we want these fights, if we want Give and Slim, someone's going to have to come to a compromise. And that is the fight. It's Give and Slim.
I'd love that fight for real, bro.
That's the one, man.
Yeah,
that's the one.
Let's talk about the next Misfits card then. So, starting at the top, KSI versus Dillon Danis.
Your boy.
Dillon. I've had a little bit of back and forth with this guy. He's quite a funny guy. Do you know what it is though? Like, there's a lot of people who say shit about me, and I feel nothing. Like, I still watch their videos, and I don't get Ariel Helwani about it.
It's the game. Yeah, it's the game, bro.
I get the game, and he plays it, and I'm cool with it, and good for him, and he's getting paid. I hope he shows up. And luckily they've got some good fighters on the undercard, and I really hope that if he does drop out, they give it to a Slam Assault Pappy. They don't just go and get an out of shape T Wood or something like that. Well,
they do have Joe Fournier on the card, and that has to be for a reason. Right, like Joe Fournier, not a big influencer, but a guy that's been,
fuck me. This guy's just like some guy that's random billionaire, isn't he?
Yeah, he's like he did some real estate stuff and owned a couple of gyms, but he is 9-0, right? He's good friends with David Hay. They had the little play spar for Triller, but he is a guy that's been rumored to be possible opponent for KSI. So him being on the card makes me think, okay, they have a contingency plan in case Dillon falls out. Joe's there.
I'm kind of feeling like Misfits. It's becoming something else, and I understand why. The business needs to have levels and layers to it. They've got fallback options, but initially it was influencer boxing. Now it's just random guys who box, like that guy, that rich guy, Fournier.
Fournier.
Like he ain't an influencer to my knowledge, and there's a lot of other people who are getting in there, like MMA fighters and like when that MMA guy, that big beast of a man, the heavyweight, went in there with
oh Jesus, you mean Greg Hardy?
Greg Hardy, yeah. When he got in there with Rattman Jr., I thought, oh, you done fucked up with this matchmaking, because you probably signed Rattman Jr. on a damn good contract, and you're about to fuck that right up the wall, because Greg Hardy is just going to put him right in his place.
Bro, it was insane watching Greg Hardy. I've known about him for forever. He's a high-level NFL guy.
Yeah.
Obviously got in some trouble and then did the UFC thing, but yeah, he got in some bad trouble. But he's a guy that's just a higher-level athlete, and watching him at 100-plus pounds do what he did to Rahman, he's another guy. What you're saying, though, makes sense. Like, they are taking that next step away from just influencer boxing. This is why anytime you hear me with the Zone and with Misfits, the words are crossover boxing, right? They are really trying to make this a whatever celebrity from whatever, football, NBA, actor, real estate, whatever, they can find a way.
I don't understand how Hassim Rattman Jr. fits into that when the guy's actually a boxer, fights an MMA guy, then loses. Like, that's where you fucked up. Like, that's a big error. Whoever decided on that fucked up.
That one's tough because Rock, and that's another thing I think Misfits wants to do. Rock could be a guy that you could champion as the pro boxer. And there's another fight on this card that we have another pro, Idris Virgo, on the card. And if Misfits wants to throw their name in the hat of pro boxing arena, these are the guys they're going to do it behind, because you're not going to do it behind the influencers. You're not going to do it behind the MMA guys that are boxing. If they want that, yes, the matchmaking. And again, we have to remember Rock was supposed to fight Vitor, which was a completely different fight. And then unfortunately that one fell out last minute.
Imagine that though, right? You think you're fighting old man Vito Belfort, who's going to cruise to a victory. And then they bring out the Incredible Hulk and they're like, yeah, you're up, buddy. Like, what the fuck? I can't believe he agreed to do that. Such a mistake.
Apparently, from what I heard, it was Rock's, like, he was adamant on doing it. Like, he was like, yeah, like, loved the challenge. But I think it was some that if I had talked to Rock now, he'd probably be like, oh, I didn't know that was what Greg Hardy was. And I could have told him that's what Greg Hardy was.
He was taking Ratman's shots as if they were nothing, mate.
Just candy. Just eating them, bro.
Sorry, so back to the Dillon KSI fight where, I'm excited for this, but not really excited in terms of I don't have that will KSI lose feeling. I think that that's a bit of a mistake on the part of the promotion. However, I understand that, it is a step up from Swarms and Pineda.
Yeah, of course.
So, okay, we've stepped up and I give them credit for that. I think the only danger I see in this fight personally is if KSI doesn't look good. That's the danger here. And you've pointed out, I think on one of your videos, if I'm right in thinking, that there is a danger of that because of Dillon's awkwardness and his background.
Yeah. Anytime you fight a guy, and I'll say this, the promotion getting Dillon, again, I think they were put in a bad spot because of what happened to Logan. Logan was going to fight Dillon. This was 100% going to be the fight.
Yeah.
And when that fell out, you have, again, guys like T. Wood probably, and I can't confirm this, but probably asking for a number that they can't justify without a Logan Paul on the card. So contracts and things like that. But when you do have Dillon, I think there's a threat of a couple things. Yes, there's a threat of him making KSI look less than he is, right? Less than he can look against a professional boxer or someone that's more polished. And that's because Dillon is going to be, like you said, awkward. He's going to be able to, I assume, in certain exchanges, in clinches, do things that KSI is not used to, right? Even if KSI is at shoot fighters, Dillon just has a mastery of grappling position. This is the same thing, and I know I said it in the Ben Askren fight with Jake, but this is the same thing that you would suspect a jiu-jitsu grappling guy to do when he comes into boxing. Close range with some wild shit, punches that don't look great, but the point is not to make those punches look great. It's to close distance, to get to the places where he's comfortable. That's the danger in fighting a guy like Dillon. KSI gets tied up. It becomes one of those fights where the crowd's booing. Things don't necessarily look as flashy that you want him to see. And if he doesn't, that is where, even if with a win, that is where we leave ourselves going, well, did we really learn anything? Again, that's the hard part.
Yeah, Dillon is not on the level of a Tyron Woodley. So I don't think KSI can afford... Yeah, it's the Ben Askren fight. And for that reason, JJ, and I'm sure he will, hold himself to the standards of what Jake did to Ben Askren. It's got to be a quick annihilation in there. And I think from what I've seen of Dillon's pad work and his limited boxing that I've watched, very little power. It would be my first comment. I don't think he's got enough to push JJ back. I think JJ will be walking him down quite quickly and probably doing that smiling and clowning while he's slapping him up. But there needs to be like a seriousness, I think, like a viciousness where it's, I've got to make a statement and get you out of here, because so far, the Logan fights were very difficult for obvious reasons. It's Logan, and Logan's a difficult challenge. But in Pineda and Swarms, because those guys were so shit, it was hard to look good against them. We need a good, clean finish, and we need something where we can hold that up and go, he's on the right path. That's what we want to see. If we don't get a devastating finish where it looks clean, then I think JJ will feel like he's failed himself in that moment.
Yeah. And that's the thing that I think everyone, including JJ, knows. Like, he knows this is that one where he has to make a statement. And if that statement isn't made, we're just going to still sit here and go, oh man, like what? How do we get this Jake and KSI fight? Because that's the one everyone wants. How do we get to that? Because we don't know. Not that even that JJ is not ready, whatever. We just don't know. If we can't see, we don't know. And this is why I picked Ben against Jake, because I didn't know. We hadn't seen what we had gotten from Jake until that moment where we're like, oh, this is what he is.
Yeah.
JJ needs the same type of performance. And when you talked about him coming forward, I'll caution people that are going to watch this fight with, it needs to be composed. JJ has to be a composed killer in there, not emotional, not letting the windmills fly, whatever it is. This needs to be composed, slick, confident, just like we've seen from Jake as he's progressed. As he's gotten better, the boxing's gotten tighter. JJ needs to do that because walking forward on a grappler, if you miss one of those big bangs, he's going to wrap you up, double underhooks, and you're going to tussle for about 30 seconds till the referee stops it. Yeah, that's what's going to happen if he's not composed.
Even those swarms in Pineda were no real threat, and I get JJ could get relaxed and he could throw the game plan out the window because he knew I'm way better than these guys. Boxing friends of mine watched that and said, look, we get that he's not, treating them with the respect that he should be, and try, but what we've seen was still a little bit on the rough and sloppier side than what you'd want it to be, and that's what I'm talking about with this fight. Is it needs to be taken super seriously, even if you're way better than Dillon. That's irrelevant. It's you're making him a statement out of this guy so that it's believable that you are on the level of Jake and that we're seeing that progress.
That's the thing is JJ's not fighting opponents anymore. He's fighting whatever the progression is to Jake. Yeah. Right. That's what it is. Like the opponents are irrelevant. You have to go in and perform in a way that makes us believe that you're ready for Jake. And that's not, that sucks for him, to be honest. That really sucks because he can't just go in and win a fight and be proud of it. Like Jake already made this path. He can't even go in and win and be like, yeah, look what I did. I'm evolving. He now has to go and fight what Jake did to get to where Jake's at. That's the hard part.
Out of all of the contenders that we're seeing in Misfits, from Kenny, obviously Pappy, Slim, even Gibb if he jumps in there, and any others, who do you think is most likely to get a fight with KSI?
Oh man!
I mean, by that, I also don't mean who deserves. I mean, who would they give the fight to? Because sometimes they might go, not him yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I that's the hard part. I don't think Salt Poppy's getting that fight anytime soon. And I think we all know why. Because that man is dangerous.
Why is that?
He's dangerous, and he's the risk reward factor of fighting Poppy right now is not something that makes sense for JJ.
He hasn't got the following to be worth the danger.
You go out and lose to Poppy, and people like me and you will be like, damn, that was like JJ took on probably the hardest fight he could take at that weight, whatever. But people that don't know that would be like, why?
Do you think Poppy is better than the other guys at that level?
I would say it's him. I would say it's Slim, and I would say it's Gibb. If I realistically said who would make the most sense, and people aren't going to like this answer, but it would be Gibb.
Absolutely, bro.
It would be Gibb.
Mate, I am down for that. And it's not because I want to see these two friends punch each other, but what the fuck do we have in Misfits if not for storylines? Exactly. The storyline that these two friends used to spar each other, literally started boxing together, and now, and you Gibb wants a lot of money. There's a way to pay him all that fucking money. And,
there it is.
And not only that, it's like, it's such an exciting fight for me, like, because how tough these two lads are.
I know, and them both, but let's not act like these two are just lifelong mates, because what I'm starting to learn is there's some healthy competition between the two of them. Like when they've had their spars and things like that, and I don't know what's happened in those spars or who's gotten the better of who. I don't know. That'll have to be something that one day we maybe find out. But
what I heard is just on that.
Go ahead.
I don't know how true this is. This is just, you hear certain things of like the last spar that they had before JJ went off and did his own thing. Very competitive.
See what I'm saying?
So yeah.
This is another reason that we need to have this. And again, it's a.
I know JJ's done a lot of growing since then, and
right.
But yeah.
But again, a consistent Gibb the entire time. I mean, I talked to Vidal Riley. He says Gibb is either watching Cobra Kai and playing with his cats or boxing. And that's it. Gibb is just that dude. He's in the gym all the time. But I'll say this. When Gibb has a fight, and let's go back to the Austin fight, when he won, the first thing KSI was saying was congrats. But the second thing he was saying was, I'd still beat him. It's like, okay, well, if that's the case. And there was also a call that happened right after that fight where Mams Taylor and Liam Chippers were on the call. And they were like, yo, you want to set this thing up? Like, what are we doing? And it was kind of jokey, kind of, whatever. It was on Twitter. I think people remember. But at the same time, there's something there. It's like, okay, maybe we can do it.
Right now, I tell you, I can't explain how much more excited I would be for Gib KSI than I would for Dillon Danis KSI. 10 times more, because you know it's good. And again, one of the other things is, you've rightly talked about the progression. Jake Paul fought Gib. And he beat him very convincingly in that fight. But Gibbs done a lot of growing since then. But there's that as well. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's a reason to go, well, I'm going to fight every guy you fought, for example. Fight Gibb, fight Tyron Woodley, and compare up again. He could easily do that if he wanted to.
And a win versus Gibb now would mean so much more than it meant when Jake beat him. And not to say that Jake was like, Jake can't control that. He beat a guy that was still early, and Jake was still early. But now, watching the evolution of Gibb, that would mean a ton more. And think about it stylistically, just really quickly. They're both the same fighter, essentially. Except Gibb is probably, listen, I'm going to be honest, he might be a little more technically sound than JJ, at least than what we've seen.
That's the problem. We haven't seen... we're still waiting on that performance from JJ, the great performance, because obviously the Logan ones were very scrappy. The last ones weren't a proper challenge. Whereas Gibb's last fight was arguably the best YouTube boxing fight I've watched in terms of entertainment, and the way he came back and decked this guy was tremendous.
And by the way, JJ not being as technically sound as Gibb doesn't mean shit. If JJ, and again, we talk about styles making matchups. If JJ's able to just mow Gibb down and put him on the back foot, that would be interesting to see too, because we haven't really seen it since the Jake fight. How would Gibb react to being pushed backward over and over and over, right? These are things that we would love to see. I'm just saying, I know that people don't want that fight. They're like, oh, they're friends. Put that fight together, and you want to see some pay-per-view sell, that'll do it.
And then you've got a fighter in front of KSI who is legitimately bringing something to the table that actually adds weight to the situation on a social level, on a boxing level. Gibb ticks every single box. Maybe not as much as a Logan Paul, but in this industry, what are you looking for? You know what I mean? Right. It's Gibb, it's a T Wood. If T Wood's asking for too much money, I think he's a great challenge.
Yeah, that's the one. If you're talking about a talent level, Gibb is right there with Slim. He's right there with Salt Poppy. But if you're talking about the social level, the fandom, he blows both those guys out of the water right now. You
tweeted out recently about Deji that you think you know what his next move might be. I'm excited because I feel like Deji's highly underused at the moment. Like, even though he's just had that fight with Floyd, I feel like that should catapult him into new things.
I'll ask you this, and it'll be interesting to see what you think here. What would you do with Deji right now?
I think you need winnable fights for him because he is such a superstar in this environment. However, his fighting skills are still raw, and there's some talent there, but he has lost a lot of fights, so you have to pick wisely. There's people like Bryce Hall who would be a really nice matchup for him. I've always wanted to see Joe Weller get back in the ring, and I think size-wise him and Deji'd be a good competition, but I don't know if Deji's had too much boxing experience at this point. But those are the kind of matchups I'd be looking at. Winnable, but exciting.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that those would be great matchups, but here's where I think that we're going to get Deji next. So I've been doing the whole research Wade kind of deal on my channel, and the video is actually coming out today. So hopefully you guys will get more insight. But I've been talking. I got sources now. I got multiple sources now. I've been talking to people, and I'm just trying to figure this thing out because Deji put out a video a couple days ago, and right at the end of the video, one of the fans asked him, "Hey, when are you fighting again?" And all he says is March, boom, and the video clicks off. And I was like, okay. And so Happy Punch picked it up, and they put some names down, right? Who could he be fighting next? And they had Bryce, they had Jay Swingler, they had Alex Wasabi too, which is
Jay
fun.
Swingler, that would be great.
Jay Swingler. And then they had Liam Payne on that
no fucking way.
On that
fuck off.
Now listen to me. Give me a second here. Okay. Deji just fought Floyd Mayweather on Global Titans. Correct?
Yep.
If you're going to have Deji fight anyone else, and I spoke with Deji after that fight, and I even talked to him about kind of what his mindset was. And one of the things he told me was, these guys are going to have to chase me now. And I thought, okay, that means Deji's now in his mind, and probably rightfully so, head of the table when it comes to influencer boxing because he just fought Floyd. Now he thinks, and rightfully so, he deserves that main event spot.
He's definitely
big name.
He's definitely top 5 names in the sport, regardless of losses. Yeah.
Now, when you talk about where Deji could fight, Misfits is an option, but let's think about it again. We're talking about the money issues, right? Is Deji going to be a guy that they can, not say afford, but a guy that they're willing to take that chance on in a main event setting? Because quite frankly, I watched the Deji and Floyd fight. I was there, but not many people other than the people in that arena watched it, at least not through pay-per-view.
Nah, I bet you that bombed. I bet you bombed badly.
Oh, it did. I know it did.
Do you know how many it did?
I did under 100K. And I don't know the exact number, but it was under that.
Oh, that hurts. That hurts. That when
and it's
you
not
consider,
Deji's fault, but it's
no, they paid Floyd fucking Mayweather a show.
Yeah,
Floyd Mayweather, Mr. All Time. He's the one who should be carrying the production and the promotion rather. Like, 100%. This guy turned up like just gracing people with his presence. He doesn't give a shit.
And you hear what was going on behind the scenes with Floyd, and Deji's team is trying to save it.
Yeah,
it was awful. But that leaves me with what you said, a guy that Deji can possibly beat, but is, again, low risk, high reward, and elevates his name. It's got to be a celebrity, Jordan. It has to be. And I don't think it's going to be on Misfits. I think he's going to go and fight again on Global Titans. And I think he's going to do it in the UK. And if I'm putting a prediction out there, it's Liam Payne. It's 100% Liam Payne. And if it's not Liam Payne,
this man's going to be punching One Direction in the fucking face.
But think about it. If
he's living my dream, he's punching Floyd, he's punching One Direction. Deji, I'm so jealous of you. Like,
if they do it, here's why I say that. I have no confirmation of this at all. I'm putting pieces together. But Liam Payne wants to fight KSI, right? If he legitimately wants to be a reckless man, like he was talking on Logan's podcast, and he wants to fight KSI, and he wants to feel that adrenaline, the stupidest shit I've ever heard. But if he wants to do that, what better way to get to it than going through his little brother?
That Liam Payne, though, when he talks, he reminds me, and I watch a lot of crime shows, he reminds me of like a sociopathic serial killer. Like, he has this thing where he's completely out of touch with reality and like has so much self-belief and self-love.
Yeah.
I would not put it past him to be in the ring. Like, for that reason, because the guy obviously adores himself.
And you're going to have to be able to afford him. You're going to have to be able to and I keep saying afford.
He ain't selling records anymore. Like, his career is pretty much fucked from what I can understand. I'm not a music guy, but he's not like the other one with the long fucking hair.
He's not Harry Styles.
Yeah, he's not that cunt.
He's not Harry Styles. But what I'm saying,
the one with the long hair.
The long hair. What I'm saying is he is used to be a part of One Direction, so his asking price is going to be astronomical.
Bro, those girls will turn up. They will be cheering for him.
But who's going to pay that astronomical asking price? Who's already done it before? It's Global Titans. I genuinely don't know if they care about making money. I don't think they do. So if you do that,
you need to put your fucking commentary fee up. That's for sure.
Oh, bro, I 100% need to.
Yeah.
People knew what I got paid for that. Let's just say it was not great. So if they do it in the UK, that fight would be massive.
So you're going to be doing wrestling content on your channel coming up. I'm excited to see that because I'm an old school wrestling guy. Obviously, I've interviewed a few of those legends. The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels. Sorry.
Just crazy stuff you're doing with that. I love it.
And you know, we were talking about influencer boxing. It makes sense to talk about Logan's talent as a wrestler because I seen Shawn Michaels and a quote from him to say, after watching 3 wrestling matches from Logan Paul, it's the most talented 3 wrestling matches guy he's ever seen, or something along those lines. And I thought, it makes sense. What do you make of Logan's time in the ring so far?
Man, you talk about guys that just get the business. Like, you can see the difference, even in this isn't like making fun of Jake, but you see the difference in who gets it and who doesn't. Logan just gets it, right? There's a quote out there. I think Jim Cornette talked about watching Rocky Maivia, The Rock, for the first time, just running the ropes in an old barn when he was training. And he was like, that's going to be the WWE champion in 3 years. That's the guy right there. You just, you know it when you see it. Logan has these qualities. If Shawn Michaels, one of the best in-ring performers we've ever seen, is putting that crown on his head and saying, that guy's got it, you might see Logan Paul. Listen, I'm not going to be one of those guys that just pulls out a hot take, but I could see 2, 3, 4 years down the line, if he wants to do this, him walking around with a WWE championship belt.
Mate. You know that last WrestleMania where they brought back Stone Cold?
Yes.
I did a video around that time, and Logan had only had one. I think he had his first match on that week.
Yeah.
And I said they should have done Logan versus Stone Cold. It would have blew the fucking roof off, because it's literally like Floyd versus Logan. It's the same shit, really. You know what I mean? It's the same idea. And I had so much hate from wrestling fans. He doesn't belong in there. Kevin Owens is the one who should have been. And I was like, you'll see. Because I could see after that one match even, there was something special there. And now he's already main evented. And that moment where he's vlogging himself flying off the fucking turnbuckle into the table, sick.
Wild. This is what people don't realize. Wrestling is about being over. Wrestling is about connecting with the fans and making people feel. This is why MJF in AEW is one of the best stars in the.
Can you explain about this guy? Because I see him. I've never seen this guy wrestle.
Oh my god!
All I see is his promos, and I'm watching them like. I seen him and William Regal. I want to call him and Regal back and forth, and I was like, "This is actually entertaining. Like, this is not the bullshit I've been seeing served up from years ago. This reminds me of Raw, early 2000s."
Yes, and the reason you feel that, Geordie, is because he makes you feel that, right? It's not bullshit, comedy. It's not goofy wrestling with pre-written storylines where guys are just talking about whatever was written and handed to them in a script. And there's no emotion and there's no feeling behind it. MJF blends the lines between, is this real? Does he really feel this way about William Regal? Did William Regal really piss him off to this point? And, oh shit, I might be getting worked here. But you don't care because you're in the moment watching a guy that sounds real, that sounds like it comes from his heart, talk about the things that have happened to him. He is the most legitimate guy that we have in the scene.
Just like when the Stone Cold thing first kicked off, it was all about how raging he was about getting sacked by WCW, and that venom that was in his heart just spilled out all over the camera, and you could feel how legitimately angry he was.
When you can identify with the normal man, when you can identify with people's real emotions, then wrestling becomes fun, because now we're lost in the sauce. Now we are enthralled in what's happening. So we'll watch a match where we know, man, the backstory of this thing is this guy fucking hates this other guy, or he's a bad guy because William Regal all those years ago told him that he wasn't ready. So I kind of want to see if he's ready. And you get lost in that. So the match itself becomes even more fun when there's not doing 25 different flips and someone's landing on their back, then springing to their feet, not selling a damn thing. No, it's a story being told through physical action. MJF's the best at it. Logan's very, very good at it already. And this is what makes wrestling fun. I enjoy watching guys that care about the sport of wrestling. Like I'm still one of those guys. I'm the old dude in the high school gym that's like, it's still real to me. Damn it, that's me, dude.
Who was the guy who when you were watching? Were there specific people who really made you fall in love with this thing?
Yeah, absolutely. When I first started watching wrestling, Shawn Michaels was the guy that made me fall in love. Absolutely, I watched this guy. He was a baby behind the scenes. He wasn't a baby face, but he was a baby face in the ring that would just get beaten pillar to post. He would sell. He would do the running lariat into the turnbuckle and fly off. And he had this great body language. And then he would find a way to win. He would come back from underneath. He would take down the big guy. When he was doing the matches with Vader, you're like, how the hell is he going to beat Vader? This dude's massive. He's 300 pounds. But that was what got me into wrestling. And when I started to see the rise of The Rock, and I started to see all of the stuff with Stone Cold, it took it over the edge, right? And so from that point, I really got on board with it. And then I started to see the business go more toward the entertainment of children. And that's where it kind of lost me a bit. But it's starting to come back with a guy named MJF. I'm telling you, he's the best in the biz.
I've heard about him having a contract coming to an end or something. And
bidding war of 2024. That's it, man. So, and again, this is what's so cool is he's able to blend reality with a little bit of kayfabe. He's starting to show you guys there's nothing off limits. I'm in character always. I'm in kayfabe always. He's talking about going to Paddy Pimblett and fighting him in the UFC, bringing his title belt. He is like I said, when it comes 2024, he's going to be the most coveted free agent in all of wrestling. By far.
Yeah, I think it's great that this is, it sounds like Triple H, after everything that went on with Vince McMahon and his big scandal, which was the least surprising boss shagging workers scandal of all time. Right. It seems like Triple H is trying to bring back what we all loved about it once upon a time.
He's trying. It's going to be interesting to see if Triple H can do it. He did a little bit with NXT, getting back to focused match-based content where guys it makes sense why they're having a match. The match makes sense. Dudes aren't just flipping around and, 30 minutes of just nonstop like meth head running around addict. There's actual reasons why they're fighting. The reasons they're fighting bleed into the match, and the storylines don't just end when the match is over. These things continue to go. The long-term booking. I hope that Triple H can do it, because the wrestling business desperately needs it. They desperately need, like, we're on our, like, it's hard to say because socials and everything's going crazy, and the WWE's never going to go away, but we're on our last breath as a wrestling business as far as the public sees it. We need to make a comeback, and I think that's what's happening with, again, I have to go right to MJF because the rest of AEW is struggling a bit, but the WWE, if they can rewrite this ship, can absolutely bring it back to something that people love.
Well, big thanks to you, Wade. Grateful for the time, brother. And I'm looking forward to seeing you next month when you're in town, mate. We'll do another one of these or something after the event. Should we do a review?
Yeah, I'm down. Of course.
All right, cool. We'll get you in the studio after the event, man. Big love to the Wade Concept. He's trying to get to 300,000 subscribers. Do subscribe to him. I've been around on his channel since, 5K or something? I can't remember what it was. I'm an OG, man. So, don't forget to check Wade's channel out. Thanks very much, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.